On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks offseason kicks off, and we got some big questions. Can the Mavericks make a big swing? How do they improve at center? What's the number for Jalen Brunson and more? Talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can subscribe to the show. And the best way to help us grow is to comment below. Let us know below. What's your biggest question for the Mavericks that they need to answer going into the offseason? Let us know that. Also, I'll let you know right now that we are 5 days a week, even throughout the offseason. So we did our Monday episode early this week, but we are still going to be 5 days a week covering the draft, the free agency, all through the offseason. One of us will be here, at least one of us, as we go on this. But all that to say, amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them that Locked On sent you. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, writer at Mavs.com. The center, son, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
We're fully into the offseason now.
Fully.
Speculation, fake trades. Somebody even already tweeted at us the other day and said, hey, what do you think about adding Iman Shumpert to this team? And so I'm like, nothing says the offseason more like that tweet.
It's definitely the most possible free agency thing that someone's ever like. He's out there. He's ready to go.
He is dancing. He is out there. I do want to say something real quick on a serious note. On a serious note, from yesterday, a lot of you guys listened to us on Tuesday. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and I just want to say shout out and just thinking about all the families out there, all the people out there who have friends or family that have paid that ultimate sacrifice for our freedom here in the United States and for serving our country. And just for, I know we've had over the past 5 years, we've had a lot of people reach out that are serving overseas in the military and stuff. Listen to this pod, a lot of family members. Yeah, some right now, but specifically to family members and people who listen to this pod who have lost somebody, sacrificing their life for this country and for us. Thank you. And thinking about you, thought about you over the weekend. Obviously, we're a day past it now, but just want to say off the top.
Yeah, they had incredible memorial at Katy Trail. There was all these signs with all these people that had lost their lives in action, or killed in action, or had just died and they had served, and it was incredible just to walk down like honestly miles of the trail. There was just like big big posters and with names and pictures and faces, and it's incredible to see all the people that have served this country. But incredible day, and we also have to say that this is today for Isaac and I. This is our 5-year anniversary of starting with Locked On Mavs. Took over for Mike Marshall and Jake Kemp. Jake, don't call me Jack. We're going to do a bonus episode on YouTube only of us reacting to our first episode that we ever did. So if you're interested in that, want to hear about how this got started, the Raccoon Squad, all that kind of stuff. If you've always had questions about that, go check out that video. It should be on our YouTube channel right now. So go check that out. But today we're going to be focusing on the offseason. We got big questions going into this offseason. I know you do too. Again, comment below. What's your big question the Mavs need to answer? And my first question is, do they need to make a big swing? And how do they make a big swing? Isaac, do we think that they need to make a big swing? Is this like the offseason to do it, or else you're kind of wasting an opportunity here?
Yeah, obviously we kind of made our list. We knew we were going to do big questions, planning out ahead of time, but we didn't give each other our questions beforehand. And so I have one that kind of goes straight with that. It says, do the Mavs run it back, or do they make big changes? And this is why it's a question. I don't really have a lot of answers to my questions. It's big questions I have for the Mavs this summer of how does Nico Harrison view this team going into next season, going into this offseason? Are they viewing this, in our fans? Are you viewing this, this season, this Western Conference Finals run saying, man, we were 3 wins away from the finals. we just need to run this thing back. I was reading, Mark Cuban's quotes to Dallas Morning News the other day, and he was saying how much, and it wasn't like an excuse thing. He just said, we really missed Tim Hardaway Jr. Like that held us back a lot in these last few games because he's like outside of those three guys, Luka, JB, and Spencer, he's like, that's our next guy that can create offense. That's our best. He called him the best shooter on the team. So are the Mavs viewing this saying, hey, we were 3 wins away. Let's just run this sucker back. Let's improve around the edges a little bit. Maybe add a cheap center. Tim's going to be back healthy, and let's make another deep run. Or do they go into the offseason saying, you know what, we're always star searching. We're always looking for that next all-star, and we'll consolidate and go get a big name.
Now, we did an episode on Friday about the exit interviews, about some of those Zach LaVine rumors, about the Rudy Gobert rumors, and everything I took from Nico Harrison's comments at exit interviews was nothing. No, was that we know the answer to that question. I don't think they're just going to run it back. I don't think this Mavericks team and this front office is just satisfied with, okay, we're just going to run it back. We like the team that we have. We like the guys that we have.
It's continuity, Nick.
But part of it, for sure. But they know they need to make some changes. They know they have an opportunity to take that next step forward. Now, is that a big swing like what we think a big swing is, or what they think a big swing is? And this is the answer to my question. Do they need to make a big swing? I don't think they need to, but they should. They should at least try and do their due diligence on everybody, because part of the problem with some of these big swing moves is you have to have another team that agrees with it. You have to have another team that wants to do the same things as you and wants to to trade, right? Like you have to come to the agreement. They can't just sign somebody. This is not a situation where the Mavericks can go out and use Nico Harrison's connections and one player just needs to make the one decision to come to the Mavericks. It has to be the Mavs agree with it, the players the Mavs have agree with it, the players on the other team agree with it, and then the other team agrees with it. There are more parties involved in this. And so I think they're going to try to make a big swing, but I think that it's tough to try and do it right now with the way that the Mavericks are. Now they can improve, but I don't know about a big swing, like bringing in another all-star, bringing in all-star play. We talked about the Zach LaVine thing, trying to bring him in, how complicated that can be. What would it take to give him, like to go get him? It would probably take Jalen Brunson. And that's a big question for a lot of people. Would you do that? And we talked about that a little bit on Friday, but yeah, that was my first big question was, do they need to make a big swing?
My only pushback to the, hey, we know the answer from Nico is we also got the answer from Nico saying, hey, there's a lot of teams with multiple all-stars watching us, and him leaning into the, hey, we're looking for fit, not necessarily having to put all-stars around. So that's my only thing that's why I joke about nothing. It was a lot of great quotes from Nico, but it was a lot of like, hey, yeah, we're always looking for but there's all-stars sitting at home watching this too. He's saying the right things. These are the exact things you want to hear from him. But I don't know if I'm walking away from it saying, man, they're going swinging hard this summer. Because if they run it back in the fall, I wouldn't be like shocked either.
But what does a big swing mean?
Rudy Gobert.
Could a big swing be bring in multiple rotation players, take a couple of risks on a couple of guys and bring in some guys and say, hey, we're gonna get X, Y, and Z and bring in and swing that way?
I think a big swing is two to three of your rotation pieces now for one guy.
Yeah,
I think that's a big swing
for you. It's a big trade.
Yeah, 3, because I don't think if you're going out and adding a Rashawn Holmes to your bench unit, that's a big swing. I don't think that's a big swing. No. I don't think if you're putting Dwight Powell and Frank Ntilikina together to bring in Rashawn Holmes, that's a big swing. I think it's hey, they're trading 3 guys for one dude, and you're like, all right, now that's a swing right there. You're kind of risking something there.
My next question is, how much is Jalen Brunson going to cost? That's just a huge, big question the Mavs have to answer in some way. He is an unrestricted free agent. The Mavericks do have his bird rights, meaning Cuban is correct that they can sign him to more money than anybody else can. Now, here are a couple of contracts that I pulled that are similar to what Jalen Brunson could get, I think. Terry Rozier, your guy. You've been really big on Terry Rozier. He got a 4-year, $96 million deal in August of 2021. And all of a sudden, Mavs fans hear that deal and they go, oh, dang. Brunson is better than Rozier, right? Now?
Keep going.
and so he should probably get a bigger deal than that. 4 years, 100 maybe for Brunson. Marcus Smart. He, however, went 4 years, $78 million in August of 2021. So that was last offseason. So same offseason, Marcus Smart got 4 years, 78. Rozier got 4 years, 96. Marcus Smart could have held out for a bigger deal, but he ended up just settling and staying with Boston, getting that deal. Tim Hardaway Jr. got 4 years, $70 million. That's like a steal for Marcus Smart if you compare that to what Tim Hardaway Jr. got. And Tim Hardaway Jr.'s was even a steal at the time. Fred VanVleet in November of 2020, so the 2020 offseason, he got 4 years, $85 million, which looks like an incredible deal for him. And so you just start looking at some of these, and the only teams with $20 million or more in cap space right now would be Detroit, Indiana, Orlando, and San Antonio. And so anybody else, the Knicks or whoever else, would have to make some kind of trade or cap clearing move to get Jalen Brunson. Do a sign and trade, maybe, like figure out something else to try and get Jalen Brunson. So there's not a ton of suitors. There's not a lot of suitors that even have space right now. But that is a big question about Jalen Brunson for the Mavs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the number we keep on hearing, it just keeps on rising a little bit of, is he going to get, 18? Him and Dorian were in the same spot before the trade deadline. It's like, hey, can you sign the extension? And, obviously Brunson's like, I'm going to hold out because I'm going to get more than $15 million a year. Dorian took the extension. He could probably make more than that if he didn't sign it now or sign it back then. And now JB's about to cash in. He's probably going to at least make 19 to 20. Lonzo Ball's another guy.
Yeah.
Looking at his deal, he makes around that same amount as VanVleet and those guys. He's going to make in this range. I think the question for me is, what number would you be surprised per year? Would you be like, that's a little higher than I thought? That's one of the questions I have.
Yeah, it's a big question. Coming up, let's get into some more big questions. The big man is a huge question for the Dallas Mavericks. How can the Mavericks improve at center? We'll talk about that and give some names coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. The NBA Finals are starting on Thursday. You get over/under on points, rebounds, steals, couple of things for some of these players we actually do points, rebounds, and assists combined. That one's kind of fun. Jason Tatum, over/under for game 1, points plus rebounds plus assists, 39.5 for Tatum.
I'm taking the over.
Steph Curry, 37.5 points, rebounds plus assists.
Over.
If you go over on both of those guys, put down $20, you can win 60. You put down 100, you can win $300 on Prize Picks. If you want to go in and get kind of fancy and say, let's throw in Klay Thompson. He is 26.5 for Klay Thompson. Let's go the over on Thompson too. Put down $100, you can win 500, and you just keep adding to it. And Prize Picks, that's what makes it fun, is you can add different players, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. For a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive offer. You get $50 for free if a player in your Prize Picks entry scores a single point. Use the promo code NBA. Again, that's prizepicks.com, and then use the promo code NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Rafael Barlow from DFW, as well as Richard Stamen, aka Mavs Draft on Twitter. We'll have him on here probably this week to talk about the draft, but go check out them on their own show, Locked On NBA Big Board. All right, Isaac.
So I want to say this real quick about Brunson, because I'm assuming we're going to move on to some other questions about the team. My main question about Brunson is, for the Mavericks, do they officially view him as a number 2 now? And that's one of my questions. One of my bigger, it could be the biggest question for me in the offseason is, hey, we know you're going to pay him. Like that's not a doubt. Like they have to pay him, or else they would lose him for nothing. They don't have money, anything. So they're going to pay him. It's just, do they view him as a legit number 2? Does that change how, like, all right, well, we got Lucas 2. Now we just got to, go around the edges, or now we just got to get the big man, or are they still looking for hey, we got Brunson, but man, we really like that legit number 2 next to Luka on the wing. I don't know the answer to that, but that's one of my biggest questions this summer. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a huge one, and it shapes so much. It goes back to your point of do they need to make a big swing? Well, do they think they need to make a big swing? Because if they think Brunson is their number 2, then I don't think they think they need to make a big swing, right? Because then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got the number 2. We just have to improve around the edges and improve at big man, and then that's it. So that is a huge question. I hope that they don't think that. Although Jalen Brunson in the playoffs, at least for that first round without Luka, and then a little bit here and there. His numbers against the Suns and the Warriors were not as, okay, this guy's definitely a number 2, reassuring as you would think. It was like 18 a game, something like that. He shot decently well, but not well from 3. And so maybe they look at those numbers and think, yeah, no, maybe he's probably better as a number 3. Great guy to have off the bench, like a really good number 3 instead of a number 2, which is wild that we're talking about Jalen Brunson like this. A year ago, we were not having these conversations at all. We were talking about, can Jalen Brunson play in a playoff series?
Yeah.
Another big question, and this is probably the big one. We probably both have this one. What big man can they get and how, right? Because I think it's not a matter of will they get a big man? It's how and which one can they get? Because Nico Harrison was very clear. We got to improve at center. We got to improve rebounding. We have to improve rim protection. Have to improve all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think I'll add another shade of that of like how much of an upgrade at center that we know. Like Nico was so honest about that. Like if you want to say that the biggest takeaway from X interviews and of one big thing pull away from Nico's quotes is, hey, he just put it on the table of, yeah, we definitely got to upgrade at the big man spot. And, Dwight Powell obviously is hearing those comments.
I hope not, actually.
But that's my question is, how much of an upgrade at center are they wanting to make? Is this going out this summer saying, hey, we want to go add another guy to the mix. Hey, we want to offer 26 pick for Mo Bamba in Orlando and say, hey, let's just take a swing at Mo Bamba. Or is it let's take the big swing. Let's go after Rudy Gobert. Let's go after another guy out there.
Ayton.
Let's try to get let's try to get into the market for Ayton. Let's try to get in a 3-team trade with Atlanta and somebody else to where, they get Rudy Gobert and then we get Clint Capella, which that wouldn't be as big as a swing as Rudy Gobert, but it's how much of an upgrade at the center spot. Is it a solid consolidation type of trade, or is it hey, let's add a guy to the bullpen?
Yeah, so I'm just going to throw out some names. You tell me which one of these are a big upgrade or just an okay upgrade.
This could be rough.
Miles Turner. It's the name I've been throwing out there a lot. Mavs fans have been throwing out there a lot. Is that a big upgrade or is that just a general upgrade?
I think Miles Turner is throwing his name out there.
But here's the thing
about
that
him. Playoff games.
We'll go into and he's from Dallas. He lives in the area. We've seen him at the Mavs practice facility for years, right? It's not just this year he's coming out, but he's on that bad Pacers team and has an $18 million expiring contract. So he's 1 year. So if the Pacers know they're going to lose him for nothing, then they could be motivated to trade him. So that's why we keep bringing him up. And he can shoot the 3. He defends the rim really well, can defend in space a little bit. And so he just fits really well with what the Mavericks want to do.
He'd be a big upgrade.
He would be a big upgrade for me too. We mentioned Rashawn Holmes earlier, but he is a guy that is kind of played out of the rotation in Sacramento because of the Sabonis trade. He's got 3 years left on his deal, but it's a pretty that's not as big of an upgrade, but it's an upgrade for me.
Yeah, it's not as big as an upgrade. It's like, hey, I'm gonna get like a Freebirds burrito over Chipotle. It's an upgrade, but it's not like life-changing upgrade.
Christian Wood is a name that a lot of people in our YouTube comments have been throwing out there. He's at $14 million as an expiring. Seems like he kind of wants out. He's also in a contract year. It's really big for him. He could be motivated, but to me that would be an upgrade at talent for sure. The problem is, what does he want to do? What does he want to be? Because he's in a contract year. He's had issues with that Houston team and the way that they wanted to use him. And I wonder if that would work well in the Mavericks locker room, the way that Jason Kidd wants to run the team. And so I'm curious about that with him.
Yeah, I almost want to plead the fifth on this one. I need to do a little bit more homework on him as far as his chemistry stuff. And
yeah,
I feel like I talked to different people and heard some weird things. And I just don't want to have a firm opinion on that. It's one of those things where talent wise last year I was like, wow, man, playing pretty good, but I just don't know. And I don't know what the cost would be to get him. But anyway,
these guys are straight up free agents. Now the Mavericks would have to either figure out a way to sign them with an exception or just some kind of sign and trade with them. First of all, Kevon Looney's available. I can't see that happening after the run that he just had, but I'll just throw that out there. Mitchell Robinson is another name with the Knicks. He's an unrestricted free agent this offseason.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. Yeah.
That would be a big upgrade to me. Now,
and if I'm Mitchell Robinson, I'm like, hey, so how much of a discount can I take to play with Luka?
And maybe they do like the 1 year thing. Like, hey, can I just play there for 1 year, up my value a lot, and then make it a built-in contract year for myself?
Nico, show us those relationships first.
There's a bunch of other names that I'll just throw out here. You mentioned Clint Capella earlier as some kind of trade. They have Nneka Okongwu. Maybe they want to upgrade at that spot. Daniel Gafford is a name that sort of interests me with the Porzingis trade for the Wizards. How does Daniel Gafford fit with them? Rudy Gobert is obviously a name we've mentioned a lot. And then here's other guys that are straight up free agents. So we mentioned Looney, Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein for the Clippers. He was kind of their third guy, but then worked his way into that second tier. He was pretty good for them. That to me would be.
Give me Dwight over him.
I was gonna say that's like a minor upgrade to me, but I think it would be an upgrade over Dwight.
I don't know if you're rolling into training camp saying, "Hey, so we talked about adding the big man, back in the spring, and Hartenstein's the guy." I don't know if that's really energizing the fan base. It's not. He had a good end of the year, but
it's not. But it is a better guy. Thomas Bryant is another one for the Wizards. It's kind of interesting. That's one that's a little bit more of a risk. You're like going after a guy that's had some injury issues and say, okay,
injury. He was fun though.
But we're gonna try this guy. There's some old heads that are available. Some vets. Nurkic, Drummond, and Whiteside are all unrestricted free agents.
Well, I don't know. I can't handle the Drummond discourse again. I can't.
I was gonna say, can we do that again?
That was brutal, man.
And he's not the answer defensively. He would be the answer for rebounds, but he's not playing in any. Like, he couldn't play against the Celtics. Like, they threw him out there. He got like 10 rebounds, and none of them mattered. And so it's like, okay, we'll just take you out. Steve Nash just couldn't play him.
Yeah, I don't even know. Man, I don't know.
There's a bunch of other names I'll throw out there. Zubats has a team option. They're going to pick that up, but Bobby Portis has a player option, but just for $4 million. He's kind of interesting. Ayton's restricted free agent. Mo Bamba and Nick Claxton are both also restricted free agents. So those are a bunch of names.
Nick Claxton.
Those are a bunch of names we'll throw out there. We'll do more deep dives into those, but it's a huge question the Mavs need to answer. Coming up, a couple more questions for me. What do they do with the draft pick? Do they pick somebody? Do they go ahead and trade it? And then I have another question. It's not a big question, but it is a question now because we heard a rumor that the Mavericks are keeping 2 players, which means they need to get rid of another player. And so I'm really curious what happens there. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to get all the parts you need. Rock Auto can do that, and they can save you time and money while using Rock Auto. They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every single customer. They don't have different prices for, mechanics that are, behind the scenes, and they don't have a different price like front-facing, public-facing for customers. They have all that you need, and they give it at the same price for everybody. Go explore their easy-to-use website today. Get the solution for your auto parts needs. Get them shipped straight to your house, and go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box. They know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. All right, Isaac Harris. We've been talking about big questions for the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about Brunson. We talked about taking a big swing. Big men. What's another question you have for the Mavericks in the offseason?
So this is kind of a one that it's not specific to an actual player or a position, but will the Mavs tightrope?
Is it a person, place, or thing?
Person, place. It's a noun or
it's a verb. Movie.
I guess save money versus improve the team, and paying the tax and all of that. So right now they're set to be a top 10 as far as payroll team in the league next year.
Can I punch this up ESPN version? Will Cuban spend? Will Cuban spend on the team? Right? Like that would be
how crypto is going to affect Dallas in the offseason coming up next.
Well, Mark Cuban's new Shark Tank deals factor into the Mavericks free agency decisions, right? Like,
will Mark Cuban turn Spencer Dinwiddie's contract into crypto
to save money on the cap?
Coming up next.
But seriously, this is a good question.
Yeah, it just, will they? I know he said he's going to spend. There's levels to that, obviously. To bring JB back at that 20 million, let's just say 20 a year, it's going to cost a ton when it comes to luxury tax. And it's just, they're going to want to, improve the team to have a deep playoff run. This expectation is going to be here on out as long as you have Luka Doncic. So will they try to tightrope it? Will they try to shed money, but also say, hey, we got better. I know we traded Tim Hardaway, but we got this player for $3 million, and we think he can be. How much do they tightrope the cap stuff? Will it matter at all? Will we see some cap like moves that happens that we're saying, oh, that was just a cap move? Like you really just wanted to shed that money. So that's just one of my questions.
Here's my little like bonus question that I was going to throw out later, but I'll throw it out now. So according to Mark Stein, he said, quote, one interesting small scale sidebar to the Mavericks offseason plans covered extensively here on Friday. He talked about it in his Substack. It's a must list. It's a must read every single time for Mavericks fans. You have to subscribe to it, even though Isaac's yawning while I'm talking.
It's great. No, I love it.
It's very interesting. Sources say that Dallas is determined to find the roster room to retain both Theo Pinson and Boban Marjanovic next season. Key figures in its team dynamic despite their extremely limited playing time. So these guys didn't play a whole lot. Theo Pinson was a two-way guy, so he couldn't even play in the playoffs. But they want to try and bring those guys back because they were such a big part of the Mavericks chemistry. We've talked about them so much. We did a bonus episode on Friday about exit interviews with Theo Pinson. We had Theo Pinson on the podcast earlier this year and just talked about how he's been so crucial. But for the Mavericks to keep both of those guys, they have to get rid of a player, because if they're keeping Brunson and those two guys, and that means another player has to go. Trey Burke has a player option. Is he the guy? Frank Ntilikina doesn't he have a non-guaranteed contract for next year? Is that the guy that goes? He had been kind of valuable for the Mavericks. Or do they make a 2-for-1 trade and then are then able to bring those guys back? So that's why it's kind of a smaller offseason question. But if they do intend to keep Theo Pinson, then they have to trade or get rid of somebody else. And who is that and why?
Yeah, I really think they're making a consolidation trade.
Yeah, and so is that trade for talent, or is that trade a money saving kind of deal too, which is an interesting thing to think about.
True. Yeah.
So my actual big question though, my last one that I have here is what do they do with the draft pick? The Mavs have the 26th pick in the NBA draft. I asked Mavs Draft Richard Stayman, who does he have around where the Mavericks are right now? He has Jalen Williams, Ishmael Kamagate. He has Nikola Jovic. He has EJ Liddell and Jake. He has a couple of other guys there too. ESPN had mocked Jaden Hardy, the guard from the G League Ignite. The Ringer had Jalen Williams, the wing from Santa Clara. It's kind of a 3-and-D guy.
Dude, this guy is the combine darling. Okay, so Jalen Williams, I mean, I think our guy Raphael even shot out a tweet about him possibly moving up into the lottery. At this point, as much draft content I've been consuming over the past week, if he's there at 26, I'll be shocked.
Now, there's two Jalen Williams, though. There's Jalen with a Y from Arkansas, and there's Jalen, like Jalen Rose or Jalen Brunson from Santa Clara. So that's the
Santa Clara
the Santa Clara guy is the one that's flying out. And then the Athletic had Marjan Beauchamp, the wing from the G League Ignite. So what do they do with it? Those are kind of the guys that are in the area. I didn't get too excited about any of them. Now, I haven't done a ton of draft stuff yet, but I think they trade it. I think that they try to get your consolidation trade you're talking about. The reason why they made the Porzingis trade is to become more multiple and say, hey, can we take Spencer Dinwiddie and Tim Hardaway Jr. and this pick and trade them somehow for something that improves the roster?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it on draft night. I mean, obviously, I've seen some people try to do all right, if you sign and trade Brunson with the 26th, and like, all right, these are different timelines here to where, I mean, you'd have to have so much, because tampering does not happen in the league anymore. So you'd have to, have all this stuff, aside when you draft a player and like hold them and all this stuff. But it's the guys under contract that, theoretically they could take a guy under contract right now on draft night and trade him with the pick and get another player or move up or move out and all of that. So, could somebody at the top of the second round, could they, trade the pick, move back to get Dwight Howard in the offseason? I don't know. Never seen that before. But,
I was like, is that a thing they're doing? Is that a thing that they would do now? Oh my gosh.
Watch them do it in the offseason.
It took me way back.
And we'll all make the joke of, Dallas traded their pick and they got Dwight in the offseason. That's something. But no, I'm really curious about, this is obviously Nico's first pick, first draft pick. Last year was his first draft. We didn't have a pick. And
he mentioned at exit interviews, he said last year was sort of like a mock draft for him, like a simulation last year because they didn't have a pick, and now it's the real thing. I thought that was funny.
But yeah, I think there's two ways to look at it, though. I think you can look at the way you're looking at it and saying, yeah, they could use this as a little bit of enticing to trade out one of their contracts and maybe go get a center. It's a consolidation type trade, all of that. Or you could look at it and say, hey, you're already in the luxury tax. You're going to be pressed for, like, you don't have room to go out and get a free agent. So why don't you use the 26th pick, get yourself a wing or a big for the, Mark Williams was originally in this range. He's not going to be there anymore, but it's like, most likely go get another wing, bring him on your team. He's cost control contract for the next handful of years, super cheap. And you say, please, let's try to actually have him serviceable. Unlike Josh.
Please be Desmond Bane.
Yeah, to where it's like, okay, well, now we're looking at this guy making a couple $1 million that we wouldn't be able to get in free agency. So I think that's the other way to look at it too.
Do you have any more big questions?
I do. I don't think Mavs fans or Luka fans are going to like it, but is this the Luka offseason? I think that's one of the questions of, I think for the next couple of years is, are we going to see an offseason that Luka comes in the camp? We know Luka has a super crazy busy offseason with a lot of national stuff and everything, and he needs the rest and everything. But is there going to be an offseason, and is this the one that he shows up to camp? We all saw the reports. Like, this isn't us just trying to create something out of thin air here. Like, all of the stuff that was very openly reported about his weight and stuff coming into camp, it took him a little bit to ramp up into the season. Are we going to see a season or an off season to where we get swole Luka watch, or it's thinned up Luka and it's coming into camp and it's like, hey, it's legitimately the best shape Luka Doncic has ever been? Is that this offseason? I don't know. And it's similar to the Joel Embiid discourse, for a handful of years of, hey, will Embiid, come into camp one year or whatever? Why are you drinking?
We have a new drinking game. Is Luka going to be the best shape of his life? That anytime somebody asks that question, take a drink.
But I throw it in there. It's obviously not question number one for me. He's a top 5 player in the league. They just went to the conference finals and everything. But I think it's still a question worth asking because, what if he comes to camp and it's the best shape we've ever been in? It's like, oh, we're getting that Luka locked in early on, and we're getting a MVP Luka from the top. And I don't know, just wanted to throw it out there. And will the Mavs have a seat at the table? That's a question that we could throw out there. To a smaller question.
That made me laugh when you said best shape of his life again.
A smaller question for next season. It's not really this off season, but how is Jason Kidd in year 2? Because you look back a couple of his past few stops in Milwaukee, even Brooklyn. It's like, hey, good first seasons, and the second year is a little different than the first year. So
we've only seen it in Milwaukee. Brooklyn was just 1 year, and with the Lakers he was an assistant, but it is a big question. Now, his approach, from everything we've read, heard, talked to people about, has been so different than it was in Milwaukee that I think it should be better, and his talent is a lot better than, it was what, third year Giannis versus fourth year Luka.
I was gonna say, I don't know about that, but
but still, Giannis wasn't as nearly the player that Luka was in Jason Kidd's second year that Luka is right now, right?
And it's, you're moving past the honeymoon stage. These players and Rick Carlisle had been here for a long time, and then this is the first year without Rick, to where, whoa, all right, a little different around here. It's little fun, all the stuff, to where, okay, now year 2, defense. You're back from the honeymoon. You're back from, the islands or wherever you went for your honeymoon. It's like, oh, now we're living together every day. And where's my toothbrush? And is this pile of clothes always going to be here? It's those type of conversations in year 2.
When are you going to finish this home project you've been talking about? You're just going to leave? I like to leave all the stuff in front of it so I can see it and be reminded to go do it. And yet the home project doesn't get done, and then the stuff stays there. That is maybe not.
You really just going to leave your shoes there?
We bought this whole thing to put shoes in. What?
Are you ever going to pick up those leaves, or you just raked them for nothing?
These are not specific examples from Isaac and I's life or marriage.
No,
they're not.
Never.
Of course. There you go. That's some big questions. Let us know in the comments below. What is your big question for the Mavericks heading into the offseason? Also, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Now go check out the Locked On NBA podcast. I'm on there on Thursdays. You can listen to some of the biggest stories covered every Monday through Friday in 30 minutes, free and available wherever you get your podcast. It's Locked On NBA. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!